Hey guys, welcome back to Scareticulous. So if you guys have not subscribed to the channel, that would be an amazing help. And if you could also hit a like on the video, that would be helpful as well. I do live stream on this channel as well, so if you'd like to join us sometime, please check the live stream section for any scheduled live streams in the future. So without further ado, I want to get into the news of Scream 7 from Matthew Lillard, where he said that the early test screenings are supposedly through the roof.
You know, Kevin Williamson takes just a little sort of more traditional in terms of the Scream franchise, and I think people are going to be excited. I hope it is. I hope they are. I think that early on testing has been through the roof, which is thrilling, and yeah, I'm excited to see what happens.
So let's go through this for a second. So Matthew Lillard is in the movie, right? So we can assess from that. You know, of course he's going to say that. You know, he's literally in the movie, so he's not going to shit talk the movie that he's in. Of course he's going to say positive things about it. He's going to say nothing but positive things up until the movie's release, probably well after that. So I don't think Matthew Lillard should be taken as some kind of like objective word on the matter, because when you're talking about test screenings, you are talking about more of an objective metric to really judge the quality and the performance of a film. I actually used to do surveys like a long time ago, 20, 30 years ago. I used to go and kind of canvas in the malls, and I would, talk to people coming by, and I would actually ask them do surveys based on upcoming movies, and I would get just random people to come. Some people, there would have to be, a certain demographic, like they'd have to be this age. I'd have like a whole checklist of things to, on a clipboard, and I would ask like, okay, are you male? Okay, are you ages 25 to 30? Like it would be like a whole thing, right? When it comes to the test screenings, it's all boiled down to demographics, and they test a wide range of demographics in these test screenings to get a better idea of, the general performance of the film, because, obviously they want to curb and mitigate as much damage as possible, right? So if there's anything like glaring in the movie that needs to be taken out, they'll find out early on, and they'll do some, reshaping, some editing and stuff, maybe even like reshoot some scenes here and there. So from Matthew Lillard, we can basically gauge his subjective viewpoint on it, that the test screenings were through the roof. Now, we don't have any actual objective information to verify that claim, right? So all we can really do is just kind of trust his word. Now, I want to go through the previous Scream movie entries and just kind of give you an idea of what the test screening reactions were to those movies, to kind of give us an idea of what to expect for Scream 7, okay? So again, if you haven't hit the thumbs up yet, do that right now. That would be great. Subscribe to the channel. So let's boil down the reception to Scream 5, which I would say you could chalk up the success of that movie, at least in terms of box office, to Gen Z. A lot of younger people definitely liked Scream 5. It was obviously mixed reception for a lot of longtime fans. I would say it was a divisive movie, but I think where it really faltered was the legacy viewers were, they weren't really that pleased by it. So you had obviously like a demographic shift there. You had a generational gap, and I think there's definitely growing pains you could start to feel with Scream 5. With Scream 6 in 2023, I think you had a much stronger direction in terms of, where this series was going. And if it was going to still go down that path, I'm sure they would have kept going with more of a Gen Z audience. They were coming back from Scream 5. They obviously enjoyed it, and therefore got a much better box office as a result. General audiences tended to like this movie, but I would say it was definitely more of a mixed reaction for purist fans of the series, right? More legacy fans. But it was a bigger movie, it was entertaining, although that cartoony Scooby-Doo ending notwithstanding, it did pretty well. Now, this is how Scream 7 is going to differ in terms of demographics, in terms of box office. This is what we can likely expect. It's going to probably be the most emotionally resonant sequel since Scream 2, because the franchise needs to pivot back at this point, right? Something needs to save the franchise, because we no longer have Sam Carpenter, we no longer have Tara, we don't have these characters to move the series forward, so we have to basically course correct, right? So you have legacy characters returning, you have a lot of mystery with the story, a lot of hype surrounding this movie, you got psychological stakes, continuity answers, right? Stu Macher coming back into the fold. There's a lot of questions, a lot of hype surrounding this movie. And depending on how it goes, it could be the most bombastic, audience-pleasing movie in franchise history. So what the audience wants now is more Sidney, a smarter mystery, less chaotic finales, more method to the madness type stuff, a more meaningful Ghostface, not something that just kind of pops out and we're like, oh, we don't care. You know what I mean? We want something that kind of hooks us with nostalgia but doesn't feel gimmicky, and then something that ties the earlier movies to it, right? Scream 1, 2, and 3. We're going to obviously have those ties back to those movies, so this is going to be way more of a franchise return type of film. This is obviously going to be more resonant to legacy fans of the franchise. Gen Z is still engaged because you have, Sidney's daughter Tatum and her friends. So you're going to still have that Gen Z audience coming in. Probably not as much as before because we had Jenna Ortega leave the series as well as Melissa Barrera. So it's not going to be as Gen Z dependent this time in terms of demographics, but we are going to have those legacy fans coming back from the 28 to 50 age groups. So it's going to be very positive with that demographic. The general audiences are going to be a stronger draw than number 6 if the marketing emphasizes Sidney's return. So more people are going to start coming back to the series who are more like general fans of the show because they're going to start seeing this as like a bullet point entry in the series, right? Something they can't miss. So this is seen as more of an event, right? When you make your movie more of an event, it actually has the possibility of being way more popular as a result. Think Barbenheimer. If the writing is tight, it'll do well with the critics. So I see this movie doing well in terms of box office. I see it being very well liked compared to Scream 6 because that movie, again, along with Scream 5, they kind of were veering off course in this new direction. It was pleasing to more general audiences and Gen Z fans, but you're not going to have the legacy audience coming back that's really going to start populating the audience and propelling the series forward. It's going to start losing steam because that Gen Z audience is very distracted, right? They're always in their phones. They don't know what the hell they're doing from time to time. So you're not going to keep their attention for very long, right? ADD is off the charts nowadays. So essentially, this is going to course correct, and we're going to get a lot more positive reception for Scream 7. Basically, if Scream 7 delivers a strong legacy character involvement, plus a meaningful story rather than just purely jump scares or some kind of gimmick, or, like they did in Scream 6 where they had a family, if they get something that's a little bit more impactful to the series itself and comes, full circle, I think we're looking at a much bigger jump in terms of satisfaction with the film and satisfaction with the franchise overall. The critical score could probably be somewhere in the range of 75 to 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, basically a fresh score. The audience/cinema score will be, a B+ to an A. I imagine a lot of people are going to like this movie. The projected risks are, if the story lacks novelty or relies too heavily on retcons without payoff, the sequel has a risk of sequel fatigue with this entry. Essentially also because we're returning to older characters that have already completed their arcs, so, they're going to really have to toss more at the characters and give them more to deal with this time that is going to challenge them. And it's going to also challenge the audience expectations of what's to come, right? Especially if they want to make a Scream 8. They better be setting up something amazing. Essentially, there's a lot of real-world data to suggest that the screenings for this movie could be through the roof. I mean, he could just be saying that based on, let's say the test screenings turned out to be 80% liked it or 85%. We don't even know if Matthew Lillard is even privy to this information, but let's just say that he is. I would imagine that if the audience likes it 80% or 85%, that I would say that's overwhelmingly positive, right? Now, is it amazing? Is it through the roof? Not necessarily, but again, he's going to pump it up as much as possible, right? So I would say in terms of the markets, in terms of the demographics that this movie's hitting, you're going to have a lot of legacy fans coming back to see this film. You're going to have that Gen Z audience coming in. You're going to have, a primarily male demographic. You're going to have mostly an audience that's coming back that's on par with Scream 6. You're going to have that similar kind of domestic and global reception. So I would say this film is going to do well at the box office. And as far as rating, I would say it's anywhere from, an 8 to a 9 is what I'm predicting right now. I'd say that the film is kind of earning this cred at this point. And I feel like it's almost like a scientific certainty that it's going to hit those marks. I don't think it's going to tank or anything. They're not going to do anything too risky that's going to, risk people being turned off from the new story or the new, whatever thing they have cooking for this movie. So clearly I think they know what they're doing. Kevin Williamson is back with his baby, and, he's going to make sure that this is, one of the best Scream entries. And from what I'm hearing, it's going to bring things back to basics. It's going to bring things, in a way that's not just full circle, but it's going to start feeling like those earlier Scream movies that are less gimmicky, less there is that meta aspect, but you also have to keep kind of that tone from the originals and not have it be kind of a surprise gotcha moment, like a Scooby-Doo kind of deal, right? Where you unmask them and it's ooh, I was just doing it for the fame all along, when I was trying to rewrite the Stab sequels, it's not going to be something like that. This is going to be something that's way more emotional, way more impactful, and I think it's going to be way more emotionally resonant to the story because I feel like the Scream franchise does focus on a lot of meta aspects, but when you focus focus too much on that, you risk turning the audience off because they start to lose a connection to the characters, to the story, and they just want to like stop watching at that point. So you have to bring it back to basics. You have to bring it back to something that actually means something. Sidney, she clearly means a lot to legacy fans of the franchise. You know, she has a family now. There's a lot that's at stake here. There's other legacy characters coming back. So clearly they're going for a more emotionally resonant story this time that's less based on gimmicky reveals of Ghostface where it's like, oh, it's like the original, but not because, you know, whatever. You know, they're clearly doing something that's they're actually putting effort into the story, which I appreciate. So let me know what you guys think. Do you foresee the Scream 7 reception being particularly successful? Do you think people are going to really enjoy it? Or do you think it's, you know, Matthew Lillard just talking out of his ass? Let me know in the comments below, and please also hit that thumbs up. Love to talk with you guys in the comments. Please hit the subscribe button, and I'll see y'all soon. Have a good one.